Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. Today we are doing another fan request, and it is for the 1997 action adventure sci-fi The Fifth Element. Here is your trivia question for today. What two popular 80s and 90s toys did they use to represent the parasites that were burned off the landing gear of the ship that took them to Floston Paradise? The movie starts in Egypt 1914, and then we quickly move ahead 349 years later to 2263, where a great evil is amassing that's the size of a planet. The military immediately tries to destroy it, but to no avail. So they decide to turn to religion, where a priest named Cornelius mentions that there is an alien species that is willing to help them. Unfortunately, that alien craft is destroyed on the way to the meeting. Now, some Earth scientists take the remains of one of these creatures and are able to reconstitute it with some of their technology. This female that is then created escapes and tries to run off. She leaps off into the air and ends up landing in the cab belonging to Corbin Dallas. Corbin saves her and manages to get her back to Cornelius. So it is now up to the three of them to be able to stop the great evil and save the universe. But of course, to do so, they have to head to a space cruise line and collect the four elements from an alien opera singer. And of course, to complicate matters more, they also have to deal with the military, the president, alien merchants, a maniacally evil CEO, and an androgynous radio host. All while the original aliens that should be helpful are never seen again throughout the rest of the film. And Luke Perry shows up as well. This is a very packed movie. Luc Besson is the director and writer for this film, and he originally came up with the concept for The Fifth Element while he was in high school. A huge inspiration for this film was actually the comics Valerian, which a lot of other sci fi properties have gotten their ideas from, including Star Wars. And Luc Besson even was lucky enough to eventually make a Valerian movie that unfortunately flopped. Do you happen to know what Bruce Willis, Mila Jovovich, Gary Oldman, and Chris Tucker all have in common? They're all left handed. There's something pretty obvious that happens in the film that most people don't realize, and that's the fact that Bruce Willis and Gary Oldman's characters never actually meet throughout the entire film. The character of Lilu had over 3,000 females audition for the role. Julia Roberts was up for it. Elizabeth Berkley tried, but unfortunately, due to the flop of Showgirls, she did not get the role. Now, the reason why Mila Jovovich did is the director felt that her features looked very much like someone that couldn't be distinguished as to where their background was from. And as a supreme being, that was what they wanted to go with. There was actually a few reasons why Bruce Willis almost wasn't Corbin Dallas. Number one, the character was originally written with Jean Reno in mind, as he had worked with Luc Besson on the movie The Professional. Another reason is Mel Gibson was very high up on the list. And the last reason, Bruce Willis almost turned down the role due to his recent failures with both Hudson Hawk and Billy Bathgate. Gary Oldman agreed to play the character of Zorg for two reasons. Number one, he's very good friends with Luc Besson, and number two, Besson was the one who produced his film, Nil by Mouth. The funny part is in an interview, Gary Oldman was asked if he liked The Fifth Element, and he said, "Oh no, I can't bear it." Oldman has stated that he played Zorg as a combination of politician Ross Perot and Bugs Bunny. The character of Ruby Rod, played by Chris Tucker, was an amalgamation of both Prince and Michael Jackson, to which both of them were possibly in the running to play the character, and Jamie Foxx was also in the running as well. Brian James plays General Monroe, but the role was almost offered to Kevin Costner. The role of the diva is played by Mae Wen, who happens to be the wife of Luc Besson. Unfortunately, the original actress who was going to be the diva had to drop out. Now, what's interesting though is the vocals are not done by Mae Wen. Those are actually done by singer Inva Mula. One thing you may or may not have noticed in almost every Luc Besson film is that there is a taxi driver. The reason for this is that his father worked as a taxi driver just to get Luke through art school, and he does this as an homage and a thank you to his father. Did you happen to notice the Chanel logo on the makeup device that Mila Jovovich uses? The reason why they were able to use that is because Jovovich has actually done makeup modeling for Chanel. The animatronics that they used for some of the aliens in The Fifth Element were used again for some of the aliens in the prequel series for Star Wars. The divine language used in this film was actually something that was created between Jovovich and Bassan. The two of them came up with at least 400 different words, and by the end of filming could speak it fluently. In fact, Bassan made sure not to tell Bruce Willis any idea of what Lilu was saying, so in the moment when they first meet, it's actually Bruce Willis's reaction of being confused and trying to understand. Did you happen to notice all of the fives throughout the fifth element? Both of the bombs either stop or start at 5 seconds. Corbin Dallas has 5 strikes on his license. Ruby Rod's show the next day starts at 5 o'clock, and the scientist says that Corbin and Lilu need 5 more minutes. There's even a whole Chekhov's gun situation occurring with the match that Corbin has by the end of the film. Back when he's in his apartment, he's trying to light a cigarette, and that match blows out. So now we see that he only has one match left. But things keep coming up to make sure that he doesn't get to light that cigarette, so that he has it by the end to be able to use it on the element. The Fifth Element really is a must-see movie. There's so many things that are entertaining about it. It's visually stunning. It has a great soundtrack. I will say my only actual issue is that if you're paying attention, there are a lot of plot points that aren't making sense or just are not connecting correctly. But I do really enjoy this film, and I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Oh, one last thing I will say about this movie that I think is incredible is it's so very quotable. To this day, I still will say Aziz Light and Lilu Dallas Multipass. Now, as for the trivia question from the beginning of the episode, what two popular 80s and 90s toys did they use to represent the parasites that were burned off the landing gear of the ship that took them to Floston Paradise? The parasites that fell from the ship may have just looked like rubbery, bouncy creatures, but in all actuality, they were a mixture of boglins and those bumbleball things, which were balls that would bounce around on these little pegs that were altered to look like the parasites. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews. If there is a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments. And as always, like, comment, share, and subscribe.